In the late 1700s, in the busy city of New York City, a girl named Elizabeth Ann Seton was born into a respectable family. Her father was a doctor, and from a young age, Elizabeth learned compassion by watching him care for the sick and poor. Though she lived among society's well-to-do, her heart was drawn to those who suffered. Elizabeth grew into a thoughtful and devout young woman. She loved reading scripture and often prayed quietly by herself, asking God how she could live a life of love and service. As she grew older, she married a kind merchant named William Seton. For a time, their life seemed full of promise. They had children, a comfortable home, and many friends. But suffering soon visited Elizabeth's life. William's business collapsed, and the family lost much of their wealth. Worse still, William became gravely ill with tuberculosis. Hoping that a warmer climate might heal him, Elizabeth traveled with him across the ocean to Livorno in Italy. Yet the journey ended in heartbreak. William died there, leaving Elizabeth a young widow with 5 small children. Grief could have crushed her spirit, but instead it deepened her faith. While in Italy, Elizabeth was welcomed by a kind Catholic family, the Filicchi family. She was deeply moved by their devotion, especially their reverence for the Eucharist. Day after day, she watched them pray with a peace she longed to understand. Slowly, Elizabeth began studying the Catholic faith. When she returned to New York, she made a courageous decision. She became Catholic. At that time, many people in America mistrusted Catholics. Elizabeth's conversion shocked her friends and relatives. Some turned away from her. Work became difficult to find because of her faith. Yet she trusted that God had a plan for her life. That plan began to unfold when she was invited to start a school for girls in Baltimore, Maryland. With determination and love, Elizabeth gathered a small group of women who wished to serve God. Together, they formed a religious community called the Sisters of Charity of St. Joseph's, the first religious community for women founded in the United States. Soon they moved to a quiet valley in Emmitsburg, Maryland. There, Elizabeth opened a small school. It was simple, just a few rooms, wooden desks, and eager students, but it became the beginning of something extraordinary. Elizabeth believed that education could change lives. She welcomed girls of every background, including the poor who could not afford schooling. She taught them reading, writing, faith, and kindness. More importantly, she taught them how to live with compassion. As years passed, her school spread and more women joined the Sisters of Charity. What began as a humble classroom grew into the foundation of the Catholic school system in the United States. Elizabeth endured many hardships, poverty, illness, and the loss of loved ones, but she never lost her trust in God. Even in suffering, she would say gently, "Let us be content to be what God wishes us to be." In 1821, at only 46 years old, Elizabeth died in Emmitsburg. The small community she began continued to grow, touching countless lives through education and service. Nearly 2 centuries later, the Church recognized the holiness of her life. In 1975, Elizabeth Ann Seton was canonized by Pope Paul VI, becoming the first native-born citizen of the United States to be declared a saint. Today, her legacy lives on in thousands of Catholic schools, hospitals, and charitable works around the world. And the story of the young widow from New York reminds us of a simple truth. Sometimes God builds the greatest works, not from comfort and success, but from faith, courage, and a heart willing to serve others.